Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we dig into stacks of research, expert notes, and sometimes, yeah, even the most misunderstood concepts out there. We give you the intellectual shortcuts you need to really navigate them. And today we are wading into a topic that has been, let's be honest, popularized, monetized, and simplified almost to the point of absurdity. We're talking about the system of manifestation.
And it's a topic that's often dismissed, and for good reason, based on how it's presented.
Exactly. The version most of us run into is what we're calling the cartoon version. It's this highly marketed, super glossy idea that you just, close your eyes, wish really hard, maybe repeat a few generic happy quotes.
And treat the universe like a magic vending machine.
Yes. You insert a thought, a very specific demand, and then you expect to receive the outcome immediately.
It's just too easy, and it's fundamentally misleading.
Which is precisely why so many curious, intelligent people end up just discarding the whole practice. They see it as fluffy nonsense when their first few wishes, don't just materialize instantly.
And that simplistic vending machine model is the very first thing we absolutely have to dismantle right out of the gate. Our deep dive into the sources, it confirms that this model isn't just flawed, it's dangerously counterproductive.
How so?
It fails because it reduces a complex, functional, systematic process into pure metaphysics, or, just wishful thinking. What the comprehensive body of knowledge really shows us is that manifestation is, in fact, a three-part synchronization system. It's not just a pile of affirmations.
A system. I like that framing. It implies rules and mechanics.
Yeah, precisely. For this system to produce durable, observable results, there are three distinct moving parts that have to be completely synchronized. Think of them like three perfectly tuned strings on a guitar.
Okay.
If any one of those strings is out of alignment, the sound is discordant. The whole effort just grinds to a halt. And that's when you get that confusing, frustrating gap between what you say you want and what you actually receive.
So the key takeaway here is you can't just fake it. You can't compensate for a systemic problem with sheer optimism or like an aggressively happy veneer.
You can't. That internal conflict is what the external world actually responds to, not your conscious desire.
Okay, let's unpack this system then. If we're moving manifestation out of the realm of magic and into, say, functional systems like physics or psychology, what are those three essential pillars?
We can define them very clearly. The first is what we call inner calibration.
Inner calibration.
This is the internal component. It's your specific internal state. And it's made up of three elements: your fleeting thought, your sustained feeling or your emotional baseline, and this is the most important part, your core identity.
This is about what you truly fundamentally believe about yourself.
Yes. It addresses that deep-seated question, what do you believe about your deservingness in the world? This is the foundation. This is what sets the frequency.
Like that alone isn't enough, right?
Not even close.
Okay.
Second, you have the external signal.
The signal?
This component is entirely behavioral. This is where the metaphysical meets the measurables. It's your moment-to-moment actions, the specific choices you make every single day. And it's the precise type of energy that those choices, not just your thoughts, broadcast into the world around you. This is the antenna that transmits the frequency you set internally.
Okay, so you've got your internal state, your actions. What's the third part?
And finally, number three, you have the environment feedback loops.
The feedback loop.
This is how external reality responds to the signal you send. It includes the people you interact with, the unexpected opportunities that show up, the serendipitous timing of events, and even the resistance you face.
So the outside world is just responding to the signal.
It's responding directly to the congruent signal you are emitting, which is dictated by your actions, which are, in turn, fueled by your inner calibration.
That immediately clarifies the high failure rate we see. Because if I have pillar one nailed, I'm visualizing success, I'm trying to think positively. But pillar 2 and 3 are a total mess. I'm not taking the right actions, or I'm avoiding the environment where I could actually grow. The whole system just fails.
The system breaks down. The external world doesn't care about your good intentions. It cares about your behavior.
It's a behavioral response.
Precisely. The misalignment and the central point of failure. If your behavior, your external signal, contradicts your conscious internal belief, the environment receives the behavioral signal, not the internal thought. You can't emit a signal of, say, professional readiness while you're consistently choosing to stay home and procrastinate instead of networking. It just doesn't compute.
And we often mistakenly assume that a lack of results is a fault of the universe.
Right, or a deficiency in our magical thinking power, when in reality, it is almost always a failure of that internal and external synchronization. Success requires integrity across all three pillars.
That brings us perfectly to the next critical layer of this deep dive: identity. Because if inner calibration relies on thought, feeling, and identity, and we know people spend hours visualizing and affirming, why do these grand conscious intentions so often fall flat? I mean,
Yes.
why do people repeat "I am wealthy" 100 times only to end up avoiding their bank account? Or worse, making self-sabotaging financial choices the minute some money actually lands in their lap.
The reason is simple, but it is the key to this entire system. Subconscious identity beats conscious intention. Every single time.
Every time.
The core truth here is that your conscious mind, the one reciting affirmations and reading the books, it's loud, it's enthusiastic, but it's often temporary. The subconscious, however, is the executive function. It's the deep operating system that runs, by some estimates, 95% of your daily habits, your reactions, and your micro decisions.
95%.
All
That's
right.
huge.
It's almost everything. And this creates a fundamental, crippling conflict. Your conscious intention might be shouting, "I am worthy of success." But your unconscious programming, which has been wired through decades of conditioning, is quietly humming a totally different tune.
A tune like.
Money is scarce, or I'm defined by my past failures, or if I become visible, I'll get hurt.
So then those two signals clash.
The unconscious program, the deeply rooted identity, is the one that always wins. It's the one that dictates the external signal.
Okay, let's unpack the psychology there. You used a key term earlier: homeostasis. This feels critical to understanding why change is so difficult.
It is. Think of the subconscious as your body's natural thermostat. Its primary job is maintaining psychological homeostasis, a state of internal equilibrium. It wants to keep things the same.
The same, because the same is familiar, and familiar is safe.
Exactly. So if you're comfortable operating at, say, 68 degrees, the identity of someone who struggles financially,
Yeah.
and your conscious mind suddenly tries to crank the thermostat up to 90
That's
degrees.
the identity of an effortless millionaire.
Right. The subconscious, that executive system, immediately activates a resistance mechanism. It sees this sudden change as a threat to your established identity, which it perceives as safe.
And so it tries to cool things back down?
It steers your micro behaviors to bring you back down to that established, comfortable 68-degree setting. And that steering, that's what we call unconscious self-sabotage.
So that's the procrastination on the important tasks.
That's the procrastination. If your core script is stay small and safe, you will unconsciously choose the familiar comfort of inaction over the necessary discomfort of growth. Or you'll suddenly feel an urge to start a fight that derails a promising opportunity.
It's all just the subconscious maintaining loyalty to the old identity.
Even if that identity is profoundly limiting.
That provides incredible clarity. So if the problem is this deeply wired executive identity running a limiting script, a script that's designed to resist change, then the fix can't be surface level. It can't be just chanting or visualization alone. The fix must involve dedicated identity work.
That is the solution. And we define identity work as the strategic process of wiring brand new, stronger neural pathways that align with the desired outcome,
So you're moving beyond just thinking you are something.
to genuinely becoming it through sustained, proven microacts. We're shifting from wishful thinking and fantasy to building hard, tangible, experiential proof that your new identity is not only real, but it's more stable and more beneficial than the old one.
Okay, that sounds great in theory. But as the skeptical friend in the room, I have to ask, if my subconscious is wired for self-sabotage, how can I even trust myself to choose the right microact?
That's a brilliant question,
Isn't this just another form of self-deception just wrapped in a fancy ritual?
and it highlights exactly why the actions have to be tiny.
Tiny.
If you choose an action that requires a huge leap of faith, the executive subconscious will recognize the threat, spike your anxiety, and force you right back into homeostasis.
So the key is smallness.
Actions so small they fly beneath the radar of the subconscious threat detection system.
Okay, let's give the listener a practical, concrete technique here.
All right. First, define the outcome you want, but then immediately focus on the identity of the person who already has it. Then, you pick one tiny, repeatable action that new person would do daily. Something so minimal, so routine, it's almost laughable to skip it.
Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. Let's say you want financial freedom. The action is not make $100,000 this week. That's way too big.
The subconscious would freak out.
It would shut you down. The identity-affirming action might be review my money for just 10 minutes every morning. Or maybe it's invest $50 every single month no matter what.
So the action affirms the identity. I am the kind of person who is financially responsible.
Exactly. Or if
Yeah.
your goal is, say, deep connection and better relationships, the micro act isn't find my soulmate today.
Right.
The affirming action might be call one friend or family member for a 5-minute check-in every afternoon. This affirms the identity. I am the kind of person who consistently invests in my social network.
The action must be behavioral, not just mental.
And it must be so small that you can repeat it reliably regardless of how you feel that day. That's crucial.
I love that distinction. The action affirms the identity. And the power here is the repetition, isn't it? You're overriding the old script by consistently providing new contradictory evidence.
You're proving to your subconscious that you are now this new person, the person who handles money responsibly or who prioritizes their well-being. It's daily retraining, using physical action as the proof.
So you repeat it until...
Until that old limiting script loses its automatic power, the neural pathways weaken from lack of use, and the new behavior becomes an effortless, baked-in part of your identity. That consistent behavioral input, that reliable external signal, that's the true engine that drives profound, sustainable manifestation because it changes who you are at the core.
Excellent. Okay, we've covered identity and the necessity of microaction. Now let's talk about the second critical component of inner calibration, feeling, or emotional calibration. This is often the most misunderstood part because, manifestation culture often pushes this myth of forced positivity.
And that idea of forced positivity is incredibly destructive to the entire system.
Why is that?
Because manifestation isn't about artificial happiness. It's about alignment and using your internal feedback. Our emotions are not something to mask or fight or ignore. They are crucial data points, so like instantaneous reports on the state of your beliefs.
So if you feel fear when you think about a new goal,
That isn't a manifestation failure. It is valuable information. That fear is pointing directly at a specific limiting belief that needs inspection.
like what?
Maybe the fear is, if I succeed, I'll be exposed as a fraud. Or, if I pursue this dream, I'll lose the safety of my current routine. That's a belief system that needs to be acknowledged and processed,
Not just covered up with a generic happy mantra.
that your body doesn't believe for a second.
So when people try to fake it till they make it emotionally, they create this thing you call internal dissonance. Can you define that for us?
Internal dissonance is the feeling of being fundamentally fractured. Your conscious mind is reciting a belief that your emotional body and your executive subconscious are just shouting down.
And this conflict, it actively cancels the signal.
It absolutely cancels a signal. Imagine you're trying to transmit a clean, powerful radio wave that says, I am ready for success.
Okay.
If your words are broadcasting yes, but your gut, your body language, your deepest fears are all screaming no, you're inadequate and scared, then that conflicting signal is just weak, confused, and utterly ineffective.
The universe or the environment doesn't know how to respond.
It just receives noise, not clear direction. And this dissonance is exhausting. You end up using all your energy fighting yourself instead of directing that energy outward into aligned action.
So the way through is acceptance first. Acknowledge the fear, name it, and then implement small evidence-building steps to consciously shift the emotional state.
Precisely. You acknowledge the feeling without judgment. I see you, professional envy, or I recognize this surge of panic, and then you use the power of conscious emotional shifting. We do this through what we call micro-experiential proof.
That term, micro-experiential proof, that's in the sources a lot. Can you define it clearly for us?
It's just tiny, real-time evidence that you have agency over your internal state. If your limiting belief is causing panic, and you take a specific small action that successfully halts or lowers that panic, even for 2 minutes, that successfully completed action is the proof.
So the subconscious is an evidence collector.
It is. And small, immediate evidence of control is far more powerful than some future hypothetical visualization.
Let's give them that quick technique now, the 2-minute emotional reset. This is designed to interrupt that dissonance cycle immediately.
It's straightforward, and it must be practiced right when the negative emotion surfaces. Step 1, name the specific feeling. Be precise.
So not just, I feel bad.
No. Avoid vague terms. Don't say, I feel depressed. Say, I feel paralyzing inertia, or I feel intense shame related to that failure. Pinpoint the specific data point.
Okay, that's step 2.
Step 2, ask yourself, what would a tiny version of the opposite feeling look like? Now, if you feel sheer panic, jumping to blissful tranquility is impossible. It'll just increase your frustration.
So what's a realistic opposite?
A tiny opposite might be calm awareness, or gentle curiosity, or even just slight bodily relief. You choose a manageable emotional opposite that feels achievable right now.
And then step 3.
Step 3. Act on that tiny opposite for just 2 minutes. If the tiny opposite is calm awareness, spend 2 minutes just noticing the sensations in your hand or the texture of your clothes. This action provides immediate, real-time, micro-experiential proof to your system that you possess the agency to shift your internal state. You move from panic to awareness in 2 minutes.
That successful movement is the proof.
That's the proof that shifts the emotional baseline, even if it's just by a small but sustainable degree.
That completely shifts the paradigm from fighting the feeling to using it as data. It's about emotional momentum, not emotional repression.
It's about moving this system.
Okay, let's address the next major misconception. This one is often tied to the idea of letting the universe deliver. The core myth being that manifestation means sitting perfectly still and waiting for things to appear.
Wrong. Absolutely and unequivocally wrong.
I thought so.
As we discussed, the external signal is behavior. The universe responds to directed energy, and that energy, in this system, is action. If you have the right internal frequency but you refuse to move, nothing gets broadcasted. The external world can't possibly respond.
Action is the currency.
It is. However, it's not about random, chaotic hustle. That often comes from the old scarcity mindset. It has to be aligned action. It has to be intelligent action that perfectly matches the identity and the signals you are emitting from Pillar 1. If your actions are scattered, if they're aimed at contradictory goals, your signal gets scrambled.
The radio analogy is really the most helpful way to illustrate this. It ties the internal mindset and the external behavior together so well.
Let's use that to cement the concept. Think of the whole process like tuning and transmitting on a radio station. Your mindset, your inner calibration of thought, feeling, and identity, that sets the specific frequency. So if you're calibrated to abundance and opportunity, you're tuned to, say, 101.5 FM success station.
Okay, so I've set my frequency.
Now your actions, those daily micro acts and macro decisions, they are the antenna. The antenna is the physical mechanism that broadcasts that frequency out into the world.
So without the antenna, the frequency just sits silently inside the radio.
Exactly. And so if you have the frequency set perfectly right, you feel aligned, you believe in your success, but the antenna is missing or broken,
Or I'm just actively avoiding phone calls or not sending applications.
then the frequency sits empty. You're ready to receive, but you haven't signaled your location or readiness to the world.
And let's not forget the conflict scenario. What if your actions contradict your claims?
That's when the signal gets scrambled and becomes completely ineffective. For instance, you claim internally, I am a confident, high-value professional.
Right.
You spend your day hiding from important tasks, accepting low-pay projects, and allowing others to disrespect your boundaries.
The actions are broadcasting a different signal.
The signal being broadcast by your actions is, I am easily exploited and terrified of responsibility. That's the signal the environment feedback loops receive. And the opportunities that show up will align with that terrified signal, not your confident claim.
So aligned action means your inner calibration and your external behavior are telling the exact same story.
They're telling a congruent story. Action isn't optional. It is the necessary broadcast mechanism for your desired frequency.
Okay, we've established this process requires deep identity work, emotional mastery, and aligned action. What does this all mean for daily life? It can feel a little overwhelming.
It can.
We need a compact, repeatable routine, something that closes that gap between wanting and receiving. We need a structure the subconscious can rely on.
Structure is absolutely critical. We know that identity shift requires consistent, reliable repetition. Neural change is a slow, deliberate process by design. It takes time to overwrite decades of programming.
So we need daily input to override that history.
We do. And this routine, which takes less than 20 minutes total, provides that non-negotiable structure. It moves the effort from occasional magical thinking to a daily functional discipline.
All right, let's walk through the 3 steps of this daily alignment practice. Start us off with the morning calibration.
Step 1, morning calibration. This takes about 5 minutes. It's all about setting the identity for the day and establishing immediate proof. You start by writing one simple declarative sentence. Today, I am the kind of person who's
And you fill in the blank with.
a behavioral identity-based action, not a vague outcome like makes $1 million, but an identity that sets up the conditions for success.
For example.
Today, I am the kind of person who thoughtfully manages their time and energy. Or, today, I'm the kind of person who honors my commitments to myself first.
And then the crucial next part.
You immediately follow that sentence with one tiny, undeniable proof action. If your identity is manages their time, your proof might be to immediately block 30 minutes in your calendar for your most important task before you even open your email.
That immediately addresses the dissonance issue. You're giving yourself experiential proof right out of the gate.
You're showing the subconscious that the new program is running and you're serious about it. That small win creates momentum.
Okay, what's the next check-in? The one designed to catch the subconscious trying to derail things.
Step 2. Midday reality check. This is brief and surgical, just 2 minutes. The purpose is to catch the executive subconscious when it tries to sabotage you, usually around that afternoon slump.
And what do you do?
You name one specific limiting thought that popped up during the day. Be hyper-specific. For example, I am not smart enough to handle this negotiation.
Not just, I feel bad.
No, there's no point in trying, this project will fail, or my partner will definitely reject this idea. You name it.
And then you reframe it.
You reframe it into an evidence-based counterstatement. And this is vital. The counterstatement must cite something small, tangible, and real you already did that day.
It has to be grounded in reality, not just wishful thinking.
Exactly. If the limiting thought was about competence, the counterstatement might be, that thought is interesting, but I already successfully implemented that new procedure this morning, which proves I can handle high-level information.
You're using data against the limiting belief.
It's the only language the executive subconscious truly understands. You're showing it, not just telling it.
Okay, and what's the final piece of the day?
Step 3. Evening signal review. This takes about 10 minutes. This locks in the gains, reviews the success, and primes the system for the next day. First, you list 3 micro wins from the day. Small things that proved your new identity, regardless of the big outcome. Maybe you handled a tough conversation with grace. Maybe you spent 10 minutes on your finances.
Small wins. I like that.
Then you list one specific next step action for tomorrow. This prevents decision fatigue in the morning and gets your antenna ready to broadcast. And finally, right before you sleep, you repeat the identity sentence you wrote that morning.
Why then?
You're planting the seed of that identity directly into the subconscious, just as you enter a deeply suggestible state. It maximizes the neural change while you rest.
And the commitment here is non-negotiable, isn't it? This isn't a one-day fix.
Not at all. We're talking 21 days minimum to even start seeing neural change, but ideally up to 60 days of consistent effort to truly establish that new identity pathway as the dominant one.
It's slow, deep, sustainable work. We are fundamentally changing the operating system.
That's the goal.
Let's pivot to the final external pillar, the environment. We've established that we are social creatures. Our personal calibration is constantly being tested and filtered by the external world.
And the sources are clear. Your social circle, your media consumption, your living environment, they act as powerful, non-stop amplifiers for your internal state.
So even if you're doing the daily routine perfectly.
But you spend 8 hours a day around people who constantly doubt abundance or who are cynical about ambition.
Your internal work will just leak energy.
It will. Your positive, aligned signal will be diminished, dampened, or even completely drowned out by the external noise. The law of attraction, when you see it as a functional system, it works through networks. We live in relationship with others.
So manifestation often requires strategically changing your inner circle.
Or at least changing how you show up within that circle. If your goals are big, you cannot afford to have a small, fearful feedback loop constantly minimizing your efforts.
That's a tough and personal challenge for a lot of people. It means confronting long-standing relationships or habits.
It can be.
So what are some actionable environmental changes we can make that don't involve the nuclear option of abandoning everyone we know?
It requires strategic boundaries. It means intentionally upgrading your relationships, spending more focused quality time with people who embody the identity you want to achieve.
Seeking out resonance.
Right. Exactly. But for those relationships, you can't simply cut off. Family, longtime friends who are cynical. It means setting clear communication boundaries. When a conversation drifts into a limiting negative loop, you must strategically pivot or exit.
What would that sound like?
You can say, I appreciate your perspective, but I'm actually focused on solution finding right now. Or simply, I'm going to step away from this conversation because I need to maintain a positive focus. You're controlling the emotional input, not the person.
And this also applies to media consumption.
Aggressively. You have to reduce the time you spend absorbing unnecessary negativity online. If your environment feeds your limiting belief, you must control the feed. The environment is either an amplifier or a dampener. Your job is to make sure it's amplifying the signal you want to send.
We also need to talk about timing and patience here. People start the system and they expect vending machine results.
And when they don't appear in week 1, they fall back into cynicism.
But real shifts compound slowly.
That mistaking manifestation for instant gratification is where most dedicated practitioners quit. They feel like they're doing the work, but they see no visible tree above the soil. We have to internalize the concept of compound smallness.
I like that phrase.
Think about planting a tree. You put the seed in the ground. For weeks, maybe months, it looks like nothing is happening above the surface.
Right.
But below the surface, the roots are stabilizing. The mechanisms for deep, sustainable growth are being put in place. The seed doesn't look like a tree yet, but internally, profoundly, it is already growing.
And so many people, seeing no visible tree in week 2, they just quit. They assume the seed failed or their efforts were pointless.
It's a tragedy of timing. They quit just when the roots were starting to take hold.
So the smarter approach is to measure the right metrics.
Exactly. We need to move away from measuring only the final big win, the visible tree, and instead measure the incremental, process-oriented micro-evidence.
So you ask yourself different questions.
You ask yourself, did my overall emotional vibe feel lighter this week? Am I making different choices today than I was last month? Am I handling resistance differently? And are small, unexpected opportunities starting to align, even if they aren't the final grand goal? If the answer to these micro-evidence questions is yes, you are succeeding.
You are aligned. The system is working.
It's just working at the speed of sustainable internal change, which is always slower than we would like.
We've covered the mechanics, the mindset, the action, the environment. Let's talk about the final guardrail for sustainable success: ethics and authenticity.
This is critical. The sources are very clear. Powerful manifestations that last and contribute positively to your life must be ethically aligned and tied to your authentic values.
So when your desires actively harm others or violate your own values,
Friction skyrockets.
friction.
And that friction is a functional response. It can manifest as pushback from external human systems, legal issues, or from your own internal self-monitoring, which leads to intense dissonance and self-sabotage.
So you might get the surface goal.
You might get the job or the money, but the extreme struggle to maintain it, the constant anxiety and the guilt, often make the outcome unstable, hollow, and ultimately unsustainable.
You spend all that energy to manifest a scenario you don't actually enjoy.
And that's because the goal itself was built on misalignment, chasing something for purely external validation. The energy required to maintain it becomes unsustainable.
You spend all your time fighting the friction generated by your own authentic self.
Exactly. Which is why critical self-reflection is mandatory before you even begin the daily practice. You have to ask yourself 3 difficult questions about your desire.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, is this desire mine or is it borrowed? Are you chasing a goal that society or your parents or some influencer told you was valuable, but which doesn't actually resonate with your soul?
And how would you know?
If it's borrowed, your emotional system will generate constant, subtle friction. A lack of energy, procrastination, a sense of emptiness even with minor success. That feeling of hollow success is the data telling you the desire wasn't authentic.
Okay, question 2.
Second, does it hurt anyone, directly or indirectly? If your manifestation requires another person's failure or exploitation, you are introducing massive systemic friction that will eventually push back.
So the universe isn't a moral judge.
But human systems and karma, the energetic balance of your interactions, are very real feedback loops.
And the third question.
Third, and this one is maybe the most complex, am I trying to control specific outcomes or co-create with the environment? Trying to rigidly control specific outcomes, I must get this exact job at this exact salary. It forces the system and creates immense stress.
So what's co-creating?
Co-creating means you focus on the feeling and the identity of the outcome, and you allow the universe to deliver the best possible aligned vehicle for that. It reduces resistance by increasing flexibility.
And the sources suggest that if you align your desires with a contribution mindset, how your success benefits others, the path clears up significantly.
It does. It reduces both internal and external friction and promotes sustained flow. The focus shifts from simply taking to creating value.
To synthesize this complex functional system one last time then, manifestation is a disciplined psychological system driven by the synchronized movement of identity, emotion, aligned action, and environment.
It's about becoming the person who already has the outcome, not just wishing for it to appear.
And to wrap up, we want to give you one immediate technique to integrate this alignment right now. a way to bridge the mental work with an immediate action step.
This is your immediate action anchor.
So this is a short, guided visualization designed to anchor your mind into the feeling and connect it to a real-world action. We invite you to pause, if it's safe, and try it with us for the next 45 seconds.
Okay, close your eyes now. We're going to focus entirely on our breath to regulate the emotional state. Take a deep breath in for a slow count of 4, and a slow, intentional exhale for a count of 6, releasing tension. One more time. In for 4, and out for 6. Now, in your mind, see one specific outcome. It must be concrete and detailed. See the exact scene where this is realized. See the specific amount, the physical location, the feeling in your body. Lock into that feeling. Now, step forward in your mind and inhabit that person who already has it. Feel their certainty. What is the very next thing that person would do? Hear the sound of the atmosphere. Smell the space. See the physical action they are taking, writing an email, tying their shoes to go work out. Feel the deep conviction of that identity. Now, open your eyes, take a moment, feel that conviction, and write down the smallest, most real step you can take right now to match that scene. Don't wait. Do it now.
That's the crucial call to action, the immediate anchor in reality. And now for the final provocative challenge based on everything we've discussed today.
And I'll be blunt, as the sources suggest we must be. If your manifestation practice currently feels like wishful thinking, if you feel exhausted, or if you feel like you're perpetually fighting resistance, the problem isn't the law of attraction or the universe being stingy. It's your blueprint and your system adherence. Identity, emotion, aligned action, and environment. They have to move together.
So what's the challenge?
The challenge is simple. Do the 3-step daily alignment routine, morning calibration, midday reality check, evening signal review for a focused, disciplined 30 days. Don't worry about the outcome. Just focus on the process.
And if they reach day 30, having followed the routine with integrity and nothing has visibly changed, they still don't have the job or the relationship or the money.
That is the most important, provocative thought we can leave you with. If nothing changes after 30 days of consistent, aligned practice, it is not failure, it is invaluable data.
Data, that means what?
It means one of two things. Either the work wasn't done with the necessary integrity, maybe the microacts were skipped, or the emotions were masked. Or, and this is crucial, the desire you were aiming for was aimed at the wrong target. It wasn't ethically aligned, it was generating unsustainable friction, or it was borrowed from someone else.
So the data doesn't mean you stop.
It means the system successfully pinpointed the misalignment. It provides the precise path for deeper exploration of your true self and your authentic values.
Use the silence, use the lack of visible shift, not as a sign to quit, but as the prompt for your next necessary deep dive.
Good night show.